Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lunar Command, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched Earth rotate slowly in the vast darkness of space. After 30 years of service, she thought she'd seen everything. She was wrong. The alien vessel had appeared 3 days ago, materializing just beyond Mars' orbit in a burst of exotic radiation that had every sensor array in the solar system screaming. It wasn't the appearance of the ship that had shaken humanity's confidence in their place in the cosmos. It was its condition. Admiral. Her eye assistant's voice was carefully modulated to convey urgency without panic. The medical team has finished their preliminary report on the survivors. Chen didn't turn from the window. How bad? Worse than we initially thought. Of the 217 beings we managed to rescue, only 43 are expected to survive the next solar cycle. Their biological systems are, the AI paused, searching for the right words, fundamentally different from anything we've encountered in our simulations. Finally, Chen turned from the window, her dark eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the holographic displays that filled the command center. The room was a testament to humanity's technological advancement. Every surface alive with quantum-encrypted data streams, neural interface nodes, and augmented reality overlays. Yet all of this seemed primitive compared to the broken pieces of technology they'd salvaged from the refugee vessel. "Show me," she commanded, and the air before her erupted with images that would have driven her ancestors mad with terror. The aliens, the Nexeri, as they called themselves, were vaguely humanoid, but that's where the similarities ended. Their bodies were composed of crystalline structures that seemed to flow like liquid mercury, internal organs that defied conventional biology, and neural networks that made Earth's most advanced quantum computers look like children's toys. "Their ship's memory cores?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. "Partially decoded. Dr. Patel's team has managed to extract approximately 18% of the data. But what they found..." The AI's voice trailed off, another carefully programmed affectation designed to make human interaction more comfortable. "Just say it. They're running from something, Admiral. Something that's been systematically destroying every advanced civilization it encounters. The Nexeri were part of a coalition of species that spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their technology was centuries beyond ours. And whatever this force is, it tore through their defenses like paper." Chen absorbed this information with the stoic calm that had earned her the nickname Ice Queen among her subordinates. But inside, her mind was racing. Humanity had spent the last century preparing for first contact, gaming out every possible scenario. Hostile invasion. They had plans for that. Peaceful cultural exchange. They had plans for that too. But this, refugees from a war they didn't even know was being fought, this wasn't in any of the playbooks. The interesting part, the AI continued, is their reaction to our defensive capabilities. This caught Chen's attention. "Explain." "The Nexeri are particularly fascinated by our approach to artificial intelligence and quantum computing. According to their data, most civilizations develop along similar technological paths: crystal-based computing, biological integration, psychic resonance matrices. But our development of silicon-based digital systems and our particular approach to AI development is unique." "Unique how?" "We're the only civilization they've encountered that created true artificial intelligence without achieving psychic resonance first. Our computers, our networks, our entire digital infrastructure. It's completely alien to them, and potentially invisible to whatever's hunting them." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Throughout human history, being different had often meant being vulnerable. But occasionally, being different meant having exactly what was needed to survive. "Get me a secure line to the Security Council," she ordered, already moving toward her private command interface, "and have Dr. Patel's team focus on any tactical data they can find in those memory cores. If this threat is heading our way, I want to know everything about it." "There's one more thing, Admiral," the AI added. "The Nexeri ship's final navigation log. Before they initiated their desperate jump to our system, they detected multiple pursuit vessels, based on their velocity and trajectory. Chen closed her eyes. How long? 6 months. 8 at most. The Admiral opened her eyes, and for the first time in years, her subordinates saw something new in them. Not fear, but a fierce determination. Humanity had spent its entire existence fighting. Against nature, against itself, against the limitations of physics and biology. Now they would fight for something bigger. Implement Case Omega, she commanded, her voice carrying across the command center like a whip crack. All military personnel are hereby recalled from leave. Initiate full mobilization of the Sol Defense Fleet, and send word to all the quantum manufacturing facilities. As of this moment, we are on a war footing. As her orders were relayed across the solar system, Shen turned back to the window, back to the view of Earth spinning serenely in the void. Humanity had never faced a threat like this before. But then again, this threat had never faced humanity before. One more thing, she added, almost as an afterthought. Have the medical team keep working with the survivors. I want to know everything they can tell us about these pursuers, and make sure they know they're safe here. Whatever's coming, whatever fought them across 3 spiral arms, it's about to learn why you don't back a primitive species into a corner. The AI acknowledged the order, and the command center burst into activity. In lunar orbit, shipyards that had been dormant for decades began to hum with new energy. On Mars, underground factories that had been producing civilian equipment began retooling for military production. And in classified facilities scattered throughout the solar system, projects that had been theoretical exercises suddenly became urgent priorities. Humanity had 6 months to prepare for an enemy that had devastated civilizations far more advanced than their own. But they had something those civilizations didn't, a history written in blood and steel of adapting, surviving, and overcoming impossible odds. They had the combined knowledge of generations who had dreamed of this moment, who had written stories and made movies about exactly this scenario. And perhaps most importantly, they had something the enemy wouldn't expect. A technological backbone so primitive, so fundamentally different from galactic standards, that it might just be their salvation. The war for survival was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why you should never underestimate a species that had turned its own planet's deadliest predator into a household pet. The quantum computing lab beneath Olympus Mons wasn't supposed to exist. Dr. Maya Patel stood in its central chamber, surrounded by walls of flowing data, her neural implants struggling to process the sheer volume of information pouring through the facility's networks. The signal had appeared exactly 48 hours after Admiral Chen's declaration of war footing, and it had changed everything. "Play it again," she commanded, her augmented eyes tracking patterns that normal human vision couldn't perceive. The air filled with a cascade of light, a transmission that defied conventional physics. Her team had nicknamed it the Ghost Signal, a quantum-entangled broadcast that seemed to originate from everywhere and nowhere at once. The Nexari survivors had gone into a state of near-catatonic shock when they first detected it, their crystalline bodies resonating at frequencies that nearly shattered their medical containment units. "Dr. Patel," her lab's AI interface interrupted, "Admiral Chen is requesting an update." Maya nodded, not taking her eyes off the signal visualization. "Put her through." The Admiral's hologram materialized in the lab, her expression grim. "Tell me you have something." "We do," Maya replied, gesturing at the data streams. "But you're not going to like it." She took a deep breath. "The signal isn't just a message, it's a weapon. The most elegant weapon I've ever seen." Chen's hologram flickered as she leaned forward. "Explain." "The Nexari aren't just refugees, Admiral. They're survivors of an information war. This signal, it's designed to interface directly with advanced computing systems, particularly the crystal-based technology that seems to be standard among galactic civilizations. It doesn't just hack their systems. It rewrites the fundamental laws of how their technology operates." "And what does it do to our systems?" Maya allowed herself a small smile. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Our primitive, silicon-based computers might as well be rocks to this signal. We can observe it, record it, but it can't interface with our technology. We're too basic. The Admiral's hologram paste, a habit she'd maintained even in virtual form. So our technological backwardness is an advantage. But that doesn't explain why the signal appeared now, or why the Nexari reacted so strongly to it. Maya's expression darkened. Because it's not just a signal, Admiral. It's a countdown. She manipulated the data stream, highlighting a recurring pattern. Whatever's hunting the Nexari, they're not just coming anymore. They're already here, in our solar system. The signal is their version of a death knell. Chen's hologram froze. Where? The Nexari aren't just refugees, Admiral. They're survivors of an information war. This signal, it's designed to interface directly with advanced computing systems, particularly the crystal-based technology that seems to be standard among galactic civilizations. It doesn't just hack their systems. It rewrites the fundamental laws of how their technology operates. And what does it do to our systems? Maya allowed herself a small smile. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Our primitive, silicon-based computers might as well be rocks to this signal. We can observe it, record it, but it can't interface with our technology. We're too basic. The Admiral's hologram paste, a habit she'd maintained even in virtual form. So our technological backwardness is an advantage. But that doesn't explain why the signal appeared now, or why the Nexari reacted so strongly to it. Maya's expression darkened. Because it's not just a signal, Admiral. It's a countdown. She manipulated the data stream, highlighting a recurring pattern. Whatever's hunting the Nexari, they're not just coming anymore. They're already here, in our solar system. The signal is their version of a death knell. Chen's hologram froze. Where? Based on our analysis, they have advanced units in the Kuiper Belt. Small ones, probably automated scout ships. But the main fleet, Maya projected a new set of calculations. They'll arrive in 4 months, not 6. The Nexari's estimates were off. 4 months, Chen repeated, her voice hardening. What else can you tell me about their technology? Any weaknesses? Maya gestured, and new data flows filled the air. That's the interesting part. Their tech is so advanced it's practically magical. Except for one thing. They have no concept of digital encryption as we know it. Their entire civilization is built on quantum entanglement and psychic resonance. They've never needed to develop the kind of cybersecurity we take for granted. Because they've never encountered anyone who could threaten them that way. Chen finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. Exactly. Our primitive digital systems, our experience with cyber warfare, our entire technological foundation, it's completely foreign to them. We might not be able to match their firepower, but we can do something they've never defended against. We can hack them. Chen's hologram smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. How quickly can you weaponize this advantage? We already have. Maya waved her hand, and a new hologram appeared. A small, unassuming device that could fit in the palm of a hand. We're calling it the Babel Box. It transmits garbage data on every frequency they use, but in formats they've never encountered. To their systems, it's like trying to process a computer virus written in cave paintings. Mass production. The quantum fabricators are already running. We can have 10,000 units ready in 2 weeks, 1 million in 2 months. Chen nodded. And the Nexari. What do they think of this plan? Maya's expression softened slightly. The survivors, they're helping us. Once we explained what we were doing, they started providing details about their pursuers' communication protocols. I think they're starting to believe we might actually have a chance. We don't just have a chance, Chen replied, her voice carrying the weight of command. We have an obligation, not just to Earth, but to every civilization these beings have destroyed. Humanity is about to remind the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the most evolved. It's the one that never stopped having to fight for survival. The Admiral's hologram straightened. Keep working on the signal. I want to know everything. Where their scouts are, what they're planning, any advantage we can get. I'm authorizing Protocol Midnight. Maya felt her breath catch. Protocol Midnight was theoretical, the total conversion of Earth's economy to military production, the activation of every experimental weapons platform, the deployment of strategies so aggressive they bordered on suicidal. Admiral, she said carefully, Protocol Midnight was never meant to be actually implemented. The civilian casualties alone will be nothing compared to what happens if we lose. Chen cut her off. We have 4 months to prepare for an enemy that's destroyed civilizations that make us look like insects. But those civilizations didn't have what we have. They never had to develop countermeasures against their own technology. Every computer virus we've ever written, every hack we've ever conceived, every dirty digital trick we've ever thought up. It's all about to become the most valuable weapon in human history. As the Admiral's hologram faded, Maya turned back to the ghost signal, watching its ethereal patterns dance through the air. Somewhere out there, an ancient and unstoppable force was heading toward Earth, confident in its technological superiority. They had no idea they were about to face an enemy that had spent its entire digital age preparing for exactly this kind of fight. Humanity might be primitive, but they were primitive like a rat in a palace, small, resourceful, and absolutely capable of bringing the whole gleaming structure crashing down. Captain James Rodriguez watched the tactical display aboard the TSS Hyperion with an expression that might have been mistaken for boredom. Around him, the bridge crew worked in near-total silence, their neural interfaces carrying conversations at the speed of thought. At the edge of the Kuiper Belt, humanity's first strike force waited. The fleet didn't look impressive by the standards of their enemy. No crystalline superstructures, no psychic resonance matrices, no quantum consciousness engines, just 300 ships that looked like someone had bolted guns onto cargo haulers, which in many cases was exactly what they'd done. Signal from Lunar Command, his eye co-pilot announced. Admiral Chen is initiating Phase 1. Rodriguez straightened in his chair. All ships, execute deployment pattern Delta. Release the fish. Across the fleet, cargo bay doors opened. Thousands of objects spilled into space, small, sleek shapes that looked almost like terrestrial torpedoes. The Nexari engineers had laughed when they first saw the design, right up until they understood what they were looking at. Bevel boxes active. Tactical reported. Quantum noise generation at maximum. Enemy scouts are, yes, they're responding. On the tactical display, red dots began to move. The enemy scout ships, hidden in the Kuiper Belt's debris field, were shifting position, their perfect crystalline sensors suddenly bombarded with garbage data that made Earth's early radio broadcasts look organized. Launch drones, Rodriguez commanded. The second wave deployed. 10,000 autonomous drones, each carrying a payload that would have made the Pentagon nervous in the previous century. But these weren't conventional weapons. They were worse. Drones approaching first target, Tactical announced. Enemy vessel is attempting to establish quantum communication links. And failing. Their psychic resonance fields are completely disrupted. Rodriguez allowed himself the small smile. Deploy malware package Alpha. The drones swarmed the first enemy scout ship, latching onto its crystalline hull with magnetic clamps. To the advanced alien vessel, it must have seemed like being attacked by insects. Then the drones began transmitting. The enemy ship's surface rippled as if in pain. Its quantum processors, trying to make sense of the crude digital signals being forced into its systems, began to fail. The malware, a bastard hybrid of Earth's most notorious computer viruses, mixed with reconstructed Nexari code, tore through its defenses like a stone axe through silk. First target neutralized, Tactical reported with professional detachment. Moving to secondary targets. Rodriguez watched as the operation unfolded. The enemy scouts, designed to be invisible to the most advanced detection systems in the galaxy, never stood a chance against humanity's crude but effective assault. They couldn't ignore the Babel box's noise, couldn't process the primitive digital attacks, couldn't adapt to warfare so far beneath their technological level that it might as well have been magic in reverse. "Admiral Chen is on the quantum channel," his AI announced. "Put her through." The Admiral's hologram appeared on the bridge, her expression fierce. "Status report, Captain." "Phase 1 proceeding as planned," Rodriguez replied. "Enemy scout network is being systematically disabled. No casualties on our side." They never saw us coming. What's their response? That's the interesting part. Rodriguez manipulated the tactical display. They're not responding. As far as we can tell, they can't even process what's happening to them. It's like they're being attacked by ghosts. Chen's hologram nodded. "The Nexari engineers confirmed our theory. The enemy's technology is so advanced, so specialized, that they have no contingencies for this type of assault. They've evolved past the need for digital warfare as we know it." "Their mistake," Rodriguez said grimly. "Indeed. But this is just the beginning. The main fleet will have countermeasures. They'll adapt." "With respect, Admiral, that's what we're counting on." Rodriguez brought up a new tactical overlay. "Every scout ship we disable is uploading our viruses into their quantum network. By the time they realize what's happening, their entire command and control structure will be compromised." "And the Trojan horse?" Rodriguez's smile turned predatory. "Package is ready for delivery. The moment their main fleet arrives, they'll receive a priority signal from their own scout network. A signal carrying the complete works of human digital warfare, wrapped in their own quantum protocols." Chen's hologram was silent for a moment. "You know what the Nexari called us when they saw this plan? Blessed savages. They couldn't believe we'd think of using computer viruses from the 21st century as weapons against quantum AI." "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," Rodriguez replied. "The enemy expects antimatter cannons, quantum torpedoes, psychic warfare. Instead, they're getting the digital equivalent of sharpened sticks and stone axes. And that," Chen said with grim satisfaction, "is why we'll win. Maintain your position, Captain. Phase 2 begins in 30 minutes. As the Admiral's hologram faded, Rodriguez turned his attention back to the tactical display. Across the Kuiper Belt, humanity's crude but effective weapons were systematically dismantling the most advanced reconnaissance network ever created. The enemy's main fleet would arrive to find their scouts compromised, their quantum networks infected, and their perfect technology vulnerable to attacks they'd evolved past defending against millennia ago. "All ships," he broadcast to the fleet, "prepare for Phase 2. Active combat protocols are now in effect." He paused, then added, "And someone cue up that 21st century music playlist. If we're going to fight like barbarians, we might as well have the right soundtrack." As Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries began playing across the fleet's communication channels, Rodriguez watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The enemy had spent thousands of years perfecting their technology, evolving past the crude digital warfare of lesser civilizations. They were about to learn that sometimes evolution can take you too far from your roots. Humanity was about to remind the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the most evolved. It's the one that remembers how to fight dirty. Dr. Maya Patel's hands shook as she read the decoded data for the third time. Behind her, in the secure chamber of the Mars facility, the last surviving Nexari elder pulsed with a soft, mournful light. "You're certain about this?" she asked, her augmented eyes scanning the crystalline data structures. "This is their true nature." The Nexari elder, who had taken the human name Atlas, shifted its crystalline form in what Maya had learned was their equivalent of a nod. "We never saw it," Atlas's translated voice echoed in her mind. "We were too advanced to see something so fundamental." Maya turned to the holographic conference table where Admiral Chen and Captain Rodriguez waited with the rest of Earth's War Council. "It's not just their weakness," she said, her voice barely containing her excitement. "It's their entire existence. The enemy, they're not what we thought they were." Chen leaned forward. "Explain." "They're not organic, not artificial, not even quantum entities as we understood them." Maya projected the decoded data into the air. "They're living mathematics. Pure, abstract thought given form through advanced technology. That's why they're so powerful, why they can ignore normal physics. They don't just use quantum mechanics. They are quantum mechanics." "How does this help us?" Rodriguez asked, his tactical mind already searching for advantages. Maya's smile was fierce. "Because mathematics has rules. Unchangeable, fundamental rules. And we just found their equivalent of a divide by zero error." The holographic room erupted in rapid-fire discussion as Maya explained the discovery. The enemy, in their evolution toward mathematical perfection, had built their entire civilization on pure logical structures. They had no concept of paradox, no way to handle contradictions. Their quantum consciousness couldn't process illogical operations. "The Babel boxes were just the beginning," Maya continued. "We weren't just jamming their communications, we were forcing their consciousness to process illogical data. That's why they couldn't adapt. Their entire being refuses to acknowledge the existence of logical contradictions." "And you can weaponize this?" Chen asked. "We already have." Maya gestured, and new schematics appeared. "We're calling it protocol paradox, a quantum virus that forces their consciousness to try to resolve unsolvable mathematical problems. The classic ones, the liar's paradox, the barber paradox, Gödel's incompleteness theorems. To us, they're philosophical puzzles. To them, they're cognitive poison." Rodriguez whistled low. "We're going to give them an existential crisis." "We're going to give them billions of existential crises simultaneously," Maya corrected. "Their entire quantum network will be forced to process questions that have no answers. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? If God is all-powerful, can He create a stone so heavy He cannot lift it? Every paradox humanity has ever conceived, translated into pure mathematics, and injected directly into their consciousness." Atlas pulsed with what Maya had learned was their version of grim approval. "Your species," the elder transmitted, "thinks in ways we have forgotten were possible. You embrace contradiction. You thrive in paradox. This makes you unique." Chen's hologram paced the conference table. "How do we deliver this weapon?" "The main fleet will be here in less than 2 weeks." "That's the beautiful part," Maya said, bringing up tactical displays. "Remember the Trojan horse we uploaded to their scout network? It wasn't just carrying viruses. It was carrying questions. Mathematical puzzles that look simple but have no solution. Their entire network has been trying to solve them, spreading them from node to node, burning through processing power trying to resolve the unresolvable. And when the main fleet connects to the network," Rodriguez began, "they'll receive the full package instantly," Maya finished. "Every paradox, every contradiction, every illogical thought humanity has ever had, translated into pure mathematics and delivered directly into their quantum consciousness. Their perfect logical structures will be forced to process the fundamentally illogical." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were planning to drive an entire civilization insane with pure mathematics. "The Nexari have a saying," Atlas transmitted softly. "Beware the species that survives by thinking the unthinkable." We never understood what it meant. Until now. Chen straightened, her decision made. "How long to implement?" "The network is already infected," Maya replied. "The moment their main fleet establishes quantum contact with their scout network, protocol paradox will activate. After that," she shrugged. "How long does it take a perfect logical structure to crash when forced to divide by zero?" "Make it happen," Chen commanded. All ships will maintain defensive positions. When they arrive, let them connect to their network. Let them try to understand what's happening. And then, she smiled grimly, let them try to process the impossible. As the War Council dispersed, Maya turned back to her data streams. Humanity had spent its entire existence wrestling with questions that had no answers, finding ways to live with contradictions that could never be resolved. Now that very trait, their ability to think illogically, to embrace paradox, to exist in a state of cognitive dissonance, might save not just Earth, but every civilization in the galaxy. They were about to weaponize philosophy itself, and somewhere in the void between stars, an ancient and perfect mathematical consciousness was about to learn why some questions are better left unasked. They arrived in perfect formation, a fleet of crystalline vessels that turned the space between Neptune and Uranus into a geometric work of art. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the TSS Artemis as humanity's greatest challenge emerged from the quantum void. The enemy ships didn't so much fly as flow through space-time itself, their movements defying conventional physics. All ships maintained position. She broadcast to the combined Earth fleet, "Let them come to us." Beside her, Atlas pulsed with nervous energy, the Nexeri Elder's crystalline form reflecting the stark lighting of the bridge. "They are confused," Atlas transmitted. "Your fleet's primitive construction troubles them. They expected resistance that matched their understanding of technology. Instead, they faced a hodgepodge armada of retrofitted cargo ships, mining vessels, and hastily constructed warships that looked like they belonged in a century-old science fiction movie. The pride of Earth's Space Force appeared, to their advanced sensors, about as threatening as stone tools to a modern army. Signal from the enemy fleet, communications announced. They're asking for our surrender. They're offering to make it painless." Chen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Transmit protocol paradox. All ships, execute Operation Looking Glass." Across the fleet, thousands of Babel boxes activated simultaneously. But they weren't generating random noise anymore. Instead, they broadcast pure mathematics, equations that started simple but quickly spiral into impossible complexity. Logical paradoxes translated into quantum algorithms that had no solution. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The perfect formation of enemy ships began to waver. Their crystalline structures, manifestations of pure mathematical thought, tried to process the unprocessable. It was like watching a supercomputer try to calculate the exact value of infinity minus infinity. They're attempting to isolate their network. Maya's voice came through the quantum channel from her lab on Mars, cutting off connections to the infected scout grid. But it's too late. The paradoxes are already propagating through their consciousness. On the tactical display, the enemy fleet's movements became erratic. Some ships began to spin in impossible geometric patterns, their crews trapped in recursive logical loops. Others simply froze, their perfect mathematical existence confronted with problems that had no solution. "What's happening to them?" Rodriguez asked from his position with the flanking fleet. "Imagine," Atlas transmitted, "a being of pure logic trying to process the sentence, 'This statement is false.' Now imagine that process happening at the quantum level, across an entire civilization's collective consciousness. They cannot compute paradox. They cannot process contradiction. Their very existence depends on mathematical perfection." The enemy fleet's formation completely collapsed. Ships began to collide with each other, their quantum navigation systems trying to plot courses through logical space that no longer made sense to them. "They're transmitting something," communications reported. It's a request for parley. They're begging us to stop." Chen straightened in her command chair. "Put them through." The holographic display filled with a shape that defied human comprehension, a being of pure mathematics given form through technology so advanced it appeared magical. When it spoke, its words were translated into concepts rather than sounds. "What are you?" the entity demanded. "How can you exist while thinking these These impossible thoughts. We're human, Chen replied simply. Contradiction is our natural state. We live in paradox. We thrive in it. Every day we wake up knowing we will die, yet we live. We understand the universe is infinite, yet we try to explore it. We know some questions have no answers, yet we never stop asking them. The entity's form fluctuated wildly. You are savages, primitives. Your technology is centuries behind the galactic standard. Your computational methods are crude. Your ships are inelegant. You should not be able to harm us. That's your paradox, Chen said. You evolved past the ability to think irrationally. We never did. You see the universe as pure mathematics. We see it as a puzzle that sometimes doesn't fit together, and we're okay with that. More enemy ships were dropping out of formation, their quantum consciousness overwhelmed by the philosophical questions humanity had wrestled with since the dawn of civilization. The perfect mathematical order of their existence was being torn apart by concepts as simple as what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. The choice is yours, Chen continued. Retreat. Leave this sector of space, never return. Or stay and try to process every paradox, every contradiction, every impossible thought humanity has ever conceived. We've had thousands of years of practice thinking the unthinkable. How long do you think your perfect logical structures can last against that? The entity's form stabilized slightly. You would spare us. After we destroyed so many civilizations. That's another paradox for you, Chen smiled. We're capable of both great destruction and great mercy. We can hate you for what you've done and still choose to let you live. Humanity contains multitudes. Another concept you might find difficult to process. For a long moment, the entity was silent. Around it, its fleet continued to deteriorate, ships spinning off into random vectors as their quantum navigation systems tried to plot courses through paradox space. Finally, it spoke again. We withdraw. This sector is now marked as incompatible with mathematical existence. A warning will be posted. Here dwells a species that thinks impossible thoughts. The enemy fleet began to retreat, their perfect formation now a chaotic scramble as ships tried to calculate escape vectors, with consciousness still reeling from exposure to human paradoxes. Some had to be towed by others, their quantum processors locked in eternal loops trying to resolve unresolvable equations. As the last enemy ship disappeared into the quantum void, Atlas transmitted a sensation of awe. In all our history, the elders said, we never imagined victory could come not from advancing technology, but from embracing what we thought we had evolved past. Chen watched the tactical display as confirmation came in. The enemy was retreating not just from Earth, but from the entire sector. Humanity's first major interstellar conflict had ended not with advanced weapons, but with philosophy and paradox. Send word to Earth, she commanded. Operation Looking Glass is complete. And add a note to the Galactic Registry. Humanity is now officially classified as a Class X civilization. Class X, Rodriguez asked. Xenologically paradoxical, Maya's voice came through the quantum channel. A species that defies conventional development patterns. The galactic equivalent of a warning label, caution, contains illogical thoughts. As the fleet began to stand down from battle stations, Chen looked out at the stars. Humanity had faced its first major test in the galactic community, and they had won not by trying to match the enemy's advancement, but by embracing what made them unique. Their ability to think the unthinkable, to live with contradiction, to thrive in paradox. Somewhere out there, a civilization of living mathematics was trying to compute how a species so primitive could defeat them with concepts so simple. That paradox alone would keep them busy for millennia. Set course for Earth, Chen commanded. And someone cue up some victory music, something appropriately inappropriate. As Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries echoed through the fleet's communication channels once again, humanity celebrated its first galactic victory. They had marked their place in the cosmos, not with superior technology or advanced weapons, but with the uniquely human ability to embrace the impossible. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, perhaps, was the greatest paradox of all.